Tar Heels take home their 9th ACC tournament championship and did so in pretty impressive fashion. Beat Boston College in the Tar Heels' first game. It's a game Carolina was down 2-0 in the 7th inning. BC's pitcher was throwing very well, had some favorable strike zone help, and was throwing very well. But the Heels eventually get into the BC bullpen and pull away and win it in the end. Game 2, just a terrific game. Carolina and Florida State in the semifinals, two teams that we now know are national seeds in the NCAA tournament. And that felt like a Omaha type of game. I mean, both teams doing some good things, and Carolina gets a big hit from Kane Kepley, former podcast, in the 9th inning to score 2 and win it by 2. And then the Heels get to the championship game where they just blow the doors off of Clemson. Clemson had played one more game, so their pitching was a little more taxed, but I don't care. I mean, Carolina was up 14-0 in the middle innings. I don't care what the pitching is. That's impressive. And so, Adam, just a really impressive weekend. The Tar Heels won in different ways. They got good starting pitching. They got good relief pitching. They got timely hits. They had a couple nice plays in the field. I mean, just all of it. They looked very complete, and they needed to be to beat two teams in Clemson and Florida State, both of which are national seeds in the NCAA tournament, and a BC team that had already won a couple of games in this event, needed to win the event to get to the NCAAs, but it's certainly a capable, above 500 team that beat Carolina one time in the regular season and had a hot pitcher on the mound. So just a really nice weekend for Carolina that hopefully the Heels can build off of as now they move into regional play.
Really felt like Carolina staked a firm claim as they are this year's best team in the ACC.
Yeah. Which
we now know means you'd finish 5th in the SEC, according to the selection committee. Yeah. And they played most everybody. They beat most everybody. They beat teams on the road. They beat teams when it mattered in single elimination format. They beat them every way you can beat them. And they started 2-4 in the league. And people were wondering what was wrong, and they just figured it out and look very complete at this moment in time. I thought the win over Boston College was a nice reminder of the whole discussion of, because there was some talk of like, well, would you start Knapp in that game? It's BC.
Right.
What if you held him because you might play Florida State? That's a big one. You never know when some guy's going to walk in off the street and have just thrown 3 days prior 100 pitches and throw 100 more pitches and be awesome.
That was a lot of pitches for that guy to throw in 3 days.
A lot of pitches to not even get a decision.
Yeah.
And that can happen. That could happen this weekend for Holy Cross. I mean, he won't have thrown 100 pitches 3 days prior, probably, unless they have a heck of an inter-squad scrimmage. That's why you go with your big gun early, because you don't want to go home without him pitching, which you could have done in the ACC tournament, single elimination. I thought this format was a lot better.
I like the format. I mean, I know there's going to be some people who don't, and I think one of the big drawbacks is the discussion of the fan experience of, if you're a fan of, let's say, Miami, are you really going to travel to Durham to watch one game? It could be 5 games, but it could be one game, whereas in the past you were guaranteed at least 2, right? To me, that isn't worth changing a format that is easier to understand, that provided some great drama. You still had some teams. I mean, like Cal won a couple games. BC won a couple games. Did it hurt teams like Notre Dame and Virginia that were on the bubble and both lost the only game they played? If they had another game and they won it, would that have helped their call? I don't know. I really like it. I think it's the right way to do it. Adam and I have talked about that many times in the past. And I think, Adam, it really shows you the importance of getting that double bye. I mean, Carolina did have an advantage on Sunday. Clemson had played one more game. Again, Tar Heels won that game so convincingly. I don't think that was the reason they won, but it did give them an advantage in the game. And I heard Scott Forbes say this, and I think he's right. The number one seed should get to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think, because that's what you do normally. And part of baseball is such a routine-oriented sport that I do feel like if your weekend series are traditionally Friday, Saturday, Sunday, let that one seed stay in its routine. So I think Carolina got the benefit of that as well, of being able to stay in that Friday, Saturday, Sunday routine with this series win, or with their seed and then into the tournament.
The counter argument would be, and Scott Forbes may know more about college baseball than me, if you go Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, your bullpen gets a day of rest.
Right.
And so would you rather trade off the routine for the imaginary scenario where Walker McDuffie can throw Thursday and then have a day of rest and then come back Saturday? That is also appealing. There's no bad way to have the double bye, I don't think.
Correct.
There is a bad way if you don't have the double bye. It's going to be very tough to win this event. You're going to have to be very deep on the mound and probably get a break or two in the bracket where maybe you don't have to face all the top seeds. But Carolina played really good baseball all weekend. They've played really good baseball for 3 months now, and they've earned all the things that are yet to come.
So Carolina, one of 9 ACC teams into the field, again, one of 3 national seeds that are hosting, Clemson and Florida State being the other 2. And so Oklahoma, which finished 35-20 overall, 14-16 in the mighty SEC, one of 13 SEC teams that got in. Now, they got in 11 last year, added Oklahoma and Texas, and got 13 this year, although Kentucky was certainly on the bubble, although they weren't listed as one of the Final Four teams in the field, which I thought was surprising. The 3 seed is Nebraska. Nebraska would not have been in the tournament without a run through the Big Ten tournament to win that event. They finished 32-27 heading into the event. They finished 15-15 in Big Ten play. And then Holy Cross is the 4 seed. Holy Cross out of the Patriot League, 31-25 in the regular season, and then won the Patriot League title, beating Army in the championship matchup. So, Adam, the Tar Heels of the 4 teams here, as you would expect, have had the best season. I think they are the best team of these 4. But as you and I have discussed previously this time of year and talked about it when we were calling the games for the Diamond Heels, this is an incredibly difficult event to win. Was Tennessee the 1 seed last year?
Yes.
So they became the first 1 seed since 1999, right?
Right.
To win the event, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They became the first one in more than 20 years to win the tournament. And so I just bring that up to tell you that this is a really hard tournament to win, both because of the variability of the sport of baseball, the amount of games. I mean, this is a long event. You have a whole nother month of playing baseball, so you have to continue to play well for a month here to have the opportunity to win the national championship in Omaha. And the minimum amount of games you can win to win the title is 10. So it's a lot. Having said all that, I do think Carolina is the best team in the region. They are playing at home. And yet, every one of these teams has something that gives you pause. Even Holy Cross, which is from a smaller league, they've got 2 arms who, and I may mispronounce these guys' names, I apologize, Danny Macchiarola and Jaden Wowoda, who both have 9 wins on the season, ERA in the 3 area. Their opposing batting average is in the low 200s. So, I mean, some good arms. And Holy Cross steals a lot of bases. They get 123 of them on the year. Now, granted, that is in a smaller league where you're not facing the level of defensive catcher as you likely will in one of the power conferences, but they got 3 guys who have stolen 20 or more bases this year. So a quality team. Oklahoma has a terrific number 1 starter in Kyson Witherspoon. Don't know, as the time that Adam and I are talking, if he will throw against Nebraska or if they try and hold him, which some teams try and do. But, I mean, he's 10-3 with a 2.47 ERA and 120 strikeouts in SEC play. So, obviously, somebody who can deal. And Nebraska's red hot, feeling good. They can really hit the ball. So, every one of these teams gives you something. And so I do think the Tar Heels are the best team, but they will have to go win this regional. This is not going to be show up, roll the ball out there, and you're cruising to the super regional round.
Yeah, I think at first glance you thought, well, I don't see like a Florida or something or some powerhouse number 2 SEC team in this region. But then you start looking a little deeper at Oklahoma, and they are good. They've got Kyson Witherspoon, like Jones said. The 120 strikeouts goes with just 20 walks.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That is pretty strong. His twin brother, Malachi Witherspoon, is also an Oklahoma starting pitcher. Got similar stuff, but much more raw. And so this is the kind of weekend where you always wonder, does a guy like that find it for 7 innings and enable Oklahoma to spring an upset or two? Oklahoma's got a couple good arms in the bullpen. I think overall, depth-wise, which in a regional, depth a lot of times makes even more of a difference than in a super regional format.
Mm-hmm.
Depth-wise, Carolina's offense and Carolina's pitching appears to be the strongest of anyone in this regional. And you hope that eventually that depth is what wins out. But Nebraska's got a couple good arms too. They're playing well right now. It wouldn't be a shocker for them to beat Oklahoma on Friday. It wouldn't be a complete shocker if Holy Cross was to beat the Tar Heels. This feels like a regional that might go till Monday, just because you've got enough star power and quality teams, quality coaches. There's no pushovers here. There's no team that's like, oh, they're a complete liability defensively and that'll show up and they'll make a couple errors and play themselves out of it. That's not these teams. But I do think overall Carolina is the best offensive team. They're the best team on the mound. They're the best defensive team in this regional. You just have to hope that over the course of either 3 or 4 days, those things stand up and are the difference maker.
Yeah, it is. Carolina spoiled Tar Heel fans for so long. Just if they hosted a regional, you could just stamp it that they were going to win it. And that's just not the case. And what was it, 17 that they ended up losing one, and 12 they lost one, or excuse me, 12 they lost one. It's just hard. It isn't as easy as Carolina's made it look at times to win these regionals. And even the last 2 times, it's taken to a Monday game for Carolina to move on. And that's not, it's not desired, but it's also not like wildly unusual. It's baseball. And so this is a challenging weekend for anybody to get through. As we have said before, if you don't follow super closely, it's, again, 4 teams, double elimination. It is a huge advantage to start 2-0 in the region because then you only have to win 1 more game to advance. If you lose one of your first 2 games, you've got to work through the loser's bracket, which is not impossible, but it is going to tax your pitching much more. Then if you win this round, you're playing the best 2 out of 3 next weekend for the right to go to Omaha. The bracket that Carolina's matched up with is the Eugene-Oregon bracket. The Oregon Ducks, obviously, the top seed in that one. So it's a marathon now. But Tar Heels get started. They'll play the first game on Friday in Chapel Hill at noon against Holy Cross.
These games are fun.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to go. Great response. We talked last year about how Carolina baseball season tickets, really one of the unknown gems of the Carolina sports world. It appears, based on ticket sales, people really responded to that, bought a ton of season tickets this year. So tickets are hard to come by if you didn't get season tickets for this year. If you did, go and make a difference. The home field makes a difference in these. You don't have to sit there and wait for the guy to yell tar before you yell heels. you can like actually cheer as the game is happening, make it tough for the other pitcher, make it tough for the other hitter. It's fun to play in environments like that where the crowd's loud all the time and standing up and being proactive instead of being reactive. Those are the types of crowds that are fun to play in front of, and hopefully the kind of crowd that'll be at Boshamer this weekend.
Luke Stevenson, the ACC tournament MVP, I think that's right.
Yes.
Thought maybe Jackson Vanderbrake was going to have a chance. But Stevenson did hit a couple of bombs in the tournament and played his normal terrific defensive catcher position. So congratulations, Scott Forbes and his team, ACC tournament title, and also a national seed. Not easy to do.
Just a brief sidebar: the number 5 national seed is absurd.
It's too low. Honestly. Going into it, I thought Carolina was going to be 3. I thought Vanderbilt was probably going to be number 1 because they won, and they were, because they won the SEC tournament. They've played very well here down the stretch. They have really good RPI numbers, strength of schedule because of their conference schedule, and they played a good out-of-conference schedule. Texas, I thought would be 2, which they were, because Texas was kind of the incumbent number 1 for much of the year before Vanderbilt passed them late. But the SEC regular season champion by multiple games. I think they were 3 games ahead of second place. But then, honestly, I thought Carolina would be next. I thought the conversation was Carolina and Arkansas. Arkansas ends up with the 3, and then Auburn comes in at the 4, and then Carolina at the 5. And again, I'm not sure it really makes that big of a difference. I mean, obviously the bracket, just who you're physically matched up with as far as for the super regionals, and then if you are fortunate enough to get all the way to Omaha, who you're paired up with, that does go by the seeding. The real key is to be a top 8, and Carolina was comfortably there. But I was surprised that the Tar Heels weren't higher, but that's fine. I think keep doubting these Tar Heels. I don't think they mind that.
I do think this team and really the program is at their absolute best when they're not the clear-cut favorite and there's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Auburn finished 17-13 in the SEC. They lost 3 of their last 4 games. They got swept by Texas. To me, I don't understand what makes them better than Carolina other than they played in the SEC, which is worth like 10 bonus points on everyone's scorecard. But if I had to trade being the number 5 national seed for the path that the Tar Heels were given, I think that's a worthwhile trade because I think you feel like you have a chance to win this weekend. You feel like whoever comes out of the Eugene Regional, if you're fortunate enough to advance and they ask you to stay around, you have a chance to play well against them. It's a great scenario to play against a team that has to come across the country for a super regional if that's what happens. So it's not a bad path. It is a head-scratching seeding, and State's down at Auburn, right?
State is in Auburn.
State could beat them. Auburn's been very good at home, and so that'll end up being very good for them. But State's capable of beating them.
I was just looking really quickly here about who else was in the Eugene Regional. Arizona, Cal Poly, and Utah Valley. So no matter who comes out of that, if the Tar Heels are able to advance, it's somebody that is going to have to travel a fair amount to get here.
And if it's Oregon, and if Oregon has to come to Chapel Hill, a couple of them might drop some money on the sidewalk, and the Tar Heels could pick it up and spend it on something, which would be great.
Be exciting.
Oregon will just fly here on individual magic carpets.
So we've said this before. There are few things as fun as a great postseason run in baseball. You saw it last year. Now you got to go do it. It's certainly nothing is guaranteed at this point, but the Tar Heels have had a terrific year, playing well, feels like a team that can be successful. Got to go do it, and that starts Friday at noon as the Heels host Holy Cross. Remember, I mean, Tar Heels had a walk-off grand slam to win the 1-4 game last year against Long Island. If they don't win that game, the chances of them coming through the losers bracket with LSU, also in Chapel Hill last year, were low. So, I mean, nothing is guaranteed at this point. This is not a 1-16 in the basketball tournament. It's not comparable.
No.
It is much, much closer.